Good morning. Good morning. Welcome back to On the Page. Welcome back to the garden. I have my favorite song playing in the background by Miles Davis. Well, one of my favorite songs by Miles Davis. It's called Guinevere. I don't even know what album it's on or anything like that, but it's on YouTube. It's called Guinevere. And it's just a nice, jazzy, transcendental type of vibe. I love me some Miles Davis. Miles Davis plays the trumpet. And he's a classic jazz artist. Classic. Today I'm in a jazzy mood. I'm feeling grounded. I'm feeling grounded. I'm feeling excited. Even though I woke up and I realized that the hours was different. The timing was different. Because I was feeling different. But the timing was also different. So I was like, okay, here come the quantum leaping. And I'm ready for it. I am. Today, I'm kind of wanting to just flow through whatever we talk about, whatever we share. We're looking at memory today and the memories that we can pull from that can assist us in our healing. That's what I've been doing a lot recently. I didn't share the last on the page session, but I do want to read y'all a few things that have happened in between them times. The last session, we talked about betrayal and we wrote on betrayal and self-betrayal. Because, we put the mirror back on the self first. So we wrote on self-betrayal. We looked at self-betrayal and invited the different versions of ourselves to have a conversation. So the shadow self, the present self, the future self. And I kind of really wanted to guide us back to understanding that I curated this space on the page, The Woman in the Garden, with the focus on our becoming, whatever is to come next, and all of the work and the healing that's done, like looking at the outcome and really trying to kind of get an idea of what that full embodied version of yourself looks like. What do they believe in? What do they do on a day-to-day basis? What do they feel like? And the thing about becoming is it's so integrated into the day-to-day choices that we're making, the day-to-day decisions that we're choosing and showing up and bringing ourselves closer to that embodied version, closer to that version of ourselves that's put the past down, that's done a lot of the work to heal and get the lessons and move forward. So, and looking at that, today, I'm wanting us to consciously take a moment to look at the memories that have shaped who we are, look at the things that have made us the person that is standing here, this version of ourselves today, all that it took for us to be here. And I was talking to my friend yesterday because I was telling her that I wanted to go back and read some of my past journals, right? And I'm so glad that what came up in that conversation was the grief and the sadness and the pain that you can be brought back into and witnessing what you were going through in those times and, whatever you were journaling and whatever seasons you were in, looking at that and witnessing that and having the capacity to hold it, but also knowing when to put it back down, right? So ultimately, she gave me the advice, the guidance to not pick that back up because some things, as much as I may think that I'm ready to embark on witnessing those versions of myself again, I think that right now I'm in a season of my life where I want to enjoy the fruits of the season without being too quick to jump back into the chaos and the fire and the emotions that need to be alchemized back into new fruits. Like, I'm like, wait, I just want to chill right here, right now in the garden for a minute. So Yeah, that was some good guidance. That was some good wisdom, because instead of me throwing myself back into the pain of the past, I think that it is a little bit more wise for me to be able to just take from what is still sitting in me, what is still living in my body, and understand how that is showing up in my present reality, how that's shaping me and how I'm showing up today. So we'll be looking at the memory a little bit on what we talked about in the last session. Also, I got a little bit into memory mapping, which allows you to kind of, I guess, look at your life in terms of a timeline. And remember, I was telling y'all about making the web. In the middle is you. The outside is the different memories that have shaped you. And where did I, trying to see, I did, oh, I don't think I wrote it down like the web. I made a list. And it was interesting seeing some of the things that came up initially in making that list, because I was like, wow, I didn't know that I felt, without consciously judging or making myself think too critically about the things that have shaped me, allowing it to just flow out. I was shocked by some of the things that I wrote first. um, so like I was saying, memory mapping allows you to kind of look at the things that have shaped you, the memories that have shaped you, and especially the ones that are still living in your body. And we're going to get into that more in a second, right? So some of the moments in my life that I feel like shaped me, my father going to prison, my mom growing up raising me and my siblings as a single mother, the domestic violence, the sexual abuse, betrayal, right? Because, and I thought that was so interesting that it came up so soon and me getting into it, because I wanted to be intentional about looking at where had betrayal first shown up. Me going all the way back to being a kid, understanding what it looked like for me to look to the people around me as guidance and trust, the people that were supposed to be responsible, right? And understanding where me as a child, I was able to witness the flaw, and those systems not working, those people not being able to show up fully in the capacity of what I expected. And so seeing that it came up so soon, that betrayal, I was like, that's interesting. My period of attention seeking, rebellion, coming out as queer, deciding not to date men anymore, that needed its own bullet point. Romantic relationships starting young. And then I listed some of the patterns I noticed. Long distance relationship, dating folks that were older than me, dating mass presenting folks or studs, emotional and physical abuse. And then gender fluidity came in there. Me taking a conscious moment to look at the way that I've embodied self-expression over the years, and all of the memories that are connected to the ways that I've come to learn to express myself and stand in my version of who I believe that I am, right? Um, Embracing my femininity, embracing my masculinity, embracing both, learning balance. And then I thought that it was important for me to also get into some specific people that had shaped me, right? So that was the activity that I did on memory mapping. And it opened up the floodgates for me to kind of really look at the ways that not only all of these things, to look at the ways that all of these things had shaped me, but to also hone in on where I was able to see those moments of betrayal and then the underlying narrative of self-betrayal that was living inside of me, that allowed me to carry these things for so long. And like I said, I'm intentional today on wanting to guide us towards memories that have shaped us both good and bad, shaped you both in terms of the way that you're able to live and behold in all of your power, and also the ways that you make yourself small, the ways that you've harbored people's judgments and criticisms of who you are and who you should be, and how that's disabling you from showing up fully and who you need to be. today, right now. So let's get into it. Because I want to give us some time to write. I don't want to just yap, yap, yap. But I did want to share with y'all what I wrote at the last session on self-betrayal. And then we're going to get into I want us to kind of just create the memory map and look at it from a specific prompt. We're not going to write per se, but we are going to get into it. I want to get into it some more. We're going to draw our web. We're going to get into it. So I want you to sit with that as I read. So as I mentioned, last session, we looked at self-betrayal from the shadow, the present, and the future self. I wanted to guide folks into looking at where self-betrayal shows up in these different versions, right? So obviously the shadow is looking at the pattern, looking at the pattern, in the pattern. No, not looking at the pattern. The shadow is in the pattern. The shadow is in the act of doing these things without awareness, right? The present self is the awareness. The version of you that's like, you know what? I'm starting to see a pattern. I'm starting to see a cycle here. The future version of yourself is the version that's able to give appreciation and acknowledgement and recognition for the work that's been done, for the healing that's been done, for the weight that's been put down, for you recognizing and choosing to do something with that recognition. So the future self is giving you your praise, your flowers for doing the work, right? So this is what I wrote on self-betrayal from the shadow. I show up in self-betrayal when I forget what makes me feel closest to myself. When I put down and forget to pick back up the tools that guide me and help me steward my wholeness. I show up in self-betrayal when I repeat the same patterns, forgetting that I've already learned this lesson, forgetting to witness, to integrate, and embody learned truths. I show up in self-betrayal when I let myself believe that I am a victim, when I rob myself of power and authenticity over my life, when I forget that I too am responsible for my protection, my guidance, my healing, and well-being. I show up in self-betrayal when I show up in self-betrayal when I believe that I am unqualified to do what I love. I show up in self-betrayal when I believe that I am unqualified to do what I love. When I forget that I have evidence for greatness, my greatness. Present self. So like I said, present self is like, okay, I see you. I'm starting to see that fear is an obstacle I've had to overcome in more ways than one. Fear of change, doing something that's not what I'm used to, what I'm comfortable with, in fear of failure, not knowing if I will succeed, what success will look like, be measured by, fear of my potential. How great am I really? What will be expected of me? What will I do with all of that power? Fear of becoming the fullness that I have always felt. The me that has always lingered, bringing me here, making sure that I didn't give up. Nothing trivial was ever convincing of my undoing. The God in me that has ensured that I persevere. The God in me. I was like, okay, present self, you're locked in. And then this is the future self. Thank you for finally being courageous enough to see yourself fully. I know it's a lot to behold, to take in all at once, but you can't unsee what you've seen, unknow what you know now. That is the truth of who you are and who you were always meant to be. How fascinating. The wonders that self-healing can do. Looking at what's broken and deciding that you are powerful enough to tend, to revive and heal, to push forward and regain your strength, to keep learning and failing and succeeding. Thank you for trusting that it wasn't all for nothing. Thank you for quieting the voices that couldn't see what you saw, what you know. Thank you for knowing and believing regardless of who else believed. I said, yeah, that was a wholesome conversation. And what what I love, reading this back to myself, like at the last session, and then reading it again this time with fresher eyes, I love witnessing the work and how my own inner talk has changed. Seeing the grace, but also the honesty, the vulnerability, the accountability that I'm able to hold myself to just in conversation with myself. Just in being able to witness the truth of this is what it is. This is what I'm showing up in. This is what I'm seeing. And present self. Okay, we're seeing it. Now, let's try to look a little bit more deeper into where's that coming from. The future self. Thank you for being bold enough to look at it to begin with. Thank you for being bold enough to say, you know what? I see where I'm taking part in continuing this cycle, this pattern. I see where I've created vacancy in my chest, in myself, to hold this narrative for people to keep feeding into it. Like with the silencing, self-betrayal. Where do you feel like what you have to say does not matter? Where do you feel like what you have to add is not of value? Where have you robbed yourself of your value? Where have you made it seem like what other people need is more important than what you need? Where have you betrayed yourself? Where have you put yourself on the back burner so that you could put everybody else to the forefront? Look at that. Look at that. And it hurts. When I read it this time, I wasn't filled with as much emotion as when I was writing it, because it does hurt to witness the ways that you've, like I said, put yourself on the back burner. And that's metaphorically speaking, but the reality of that is you telling yourself, I'm not as important as this, as that, as them. And also looking at the reasons why we put all of these other things before ourselves. Wanting to belong, wanting to be accepted, wanting to be loved. Not knowing that none of these things, you putting all of them things before yourself is not going to grant you any of that. And I feel like that's what the self is that's the internal battle and conflict that's happening, because the self is like, I can give you that. We have that here. I can give you that. But you don't want to seek here first. You don't want to pour here first. And that hurts to sit with. That hurts to witness. But it's real. And that's where the healing starts. Healing is not just, oh, I got a boo-boo, let me put a Band-Aid on it. No. Healing is, oh, okay, I'm bleeding. How deep is the wound? How deep is the wound? How much care and tending to is this going to need? Do I need to wake up every day and tend to this? Do I need to make sure that I'm careful not to bump into something that could make me feel the tenderness of that again? Like the awareness. The awareness. I feel like in me understanding more the journey of self-healing, the journey of being able to witness myself honestly, there's also, like I said, a level of grace that's needed, because you have to sit with the responsibility, the part that you've played in your own undoing first, before you can look to anything outside of yourself to blame. Not to say that there are not things that happen to us in our life that are not influenced by external factors. There are. We know that. Let's put that aside for a minute so that we can look at ourselves. What part are we playing in continuing to carry even that? Even what happened over there, what part are we playing in allowing that to be the narrative that we use to define who we are? When we go and we meet people and we're showing up in the world, what are we telling people about ourselves? Are we leading with what we've been through, or are we leading with who we are? That's something to look at. So now we're going to get into the memory mapping, the webbing, the looking at the different memories that have shaped and molded us into who we are today. I want to show y'all before we do that, because I am not somebody that is able to just pull stuff from my brain all the time. I got to jog my memory. So I want to show y'all a ritual or a practice that I use to help invite memory back in, especially because on the day-to-day, it's so much stuff living at the front of our minds that it takes a minute to recall. So I have the OG photo album, and this has just allowed me to keep myself present with the different versions of myself, the different seasons of my life, the different deaths and rebirths, and to just allow myself to remember me. Remember me. I am deserving of remembering. And I think one of my favorite questions that people ask me is like, what do you want to be remembered for? Like, when you're an ancestor, how do you want to be remembered? And I very much want people to just have photos of me, say my name, sing songs that I love to sing, like listen to jazz and think of me. Like, I want people to remember me in the ways that I am learning to remember myself right now. And so I am believing and creating the reality that if I create this practice of remembering myself, it's something that will be carried on, because people will start to learn that this is how I want to be remembered. Oh, this is how you remember yourself? Okay, this is how you want to be remembered. And it's literally just different versions of me. Different versions of me, different seasons of my life. Different versions, different seasons. And it's amazing to witness, because looking at these images, I remember her. 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 Man. And like I said, that's really what I wanted us to sit with today, is before we jump into, beating ourselves up about the ways that life or trauma or, just time has made us forget. Instead of beating ourselves up about the way that time has made us forget, I want us to lean into the authority, the power that we have right now to still remember. What do you remember? What can you remember? What can you pull from to help you live in the fullness of who you are right now? And to really, I think that again goes back to, where do we learn to place value on who we are, and understanding and remembering what it took to get here. Because when you remember what it took to get here, that places a little bit more change on top of that dollar. That puts a little bit more change on top of that dollar, because now you like, oh yeah, like I did go through that, overcome that, get through that. I'm on the other side of that, and that, and that, and that. I'm not there anymore. I'm here now. And who I am now, like, and I think we say all the time, like, ooh, if I would have knew what I knew then, but you didn't. And that's okay. Remember the version of yourself that did it, even with, they didn't even have what you had. And then that's when we can learn the value and the beauty in remembering our ancestors, because they didn't even have what you had, and still they did it. Still, they made sure, they did everything that they could to make sure that you could be here today. So in honoring all that it took for you to get you here today, you can also honor and place value and reverence on looking at what it took for everybody else before you to do what they had to do for you to get here today. That is deserving of value. But in order for you to know how to value that, you have to start with the self. Remembering you. Remembering what it took for you to get here. Remembering all the different versions. Do you remember them? Did you give them their flowers? Did you say thank you? Sometimes I just want to look back, and sometimes I have to look back. Because instead of me looking back and dwelling on the pain and the grief of the years and the time lost, I have to look back and thank myself for you continued. You endured. Like I wrote, nothing trivial was convincing enough of my undoing. Nothing trivial was convincing enough of my undoing, okay? And a part of me knew that. A part of me believed so much that I needed to be here. And I don't know where she got that faith, that strength, that endurance, that ambition, that drive, that determination. But I have to give her flowers because she made sure that we got here to do whatever it is that we need to do today. And I have to honor that. We have to honor that. We have to honor the versions of ourselves that didn't have it all and still did it anyway. Scared, sad, heartbroken, full of joy, full of pain, afraid, did it anyway. Transpired, persevered, thrived, survived. Let's just give a moment for survival. Like, and I'm saying that because, I know that it may seem like, okay, girl, we get it. But no, the reality is a lot of people are not still here with us today. And in order for us to also honor them, we have to honor us too. We have to honor us first. Because then you have nothing to hold for them. You have no space to hold for them. The life that they live, the legacy that's left behind, the remembering that's needed to make sure that they're not forgotten. Honoring. Memory. Okay? So, get you one of these. Dollar Tree, Walmart, don't go to Target, whatever. But get you a photo album. Print you out some pictures. CVS, Canva, whatever you need to do. And yeah, remember you. Remember all the different versions of you. I want you to go back, as far back as you can go. And you don't need to print out all the pictures, but I want you to look at specific moments in your life where you like, oh my gosh, I still feel that. I can still feel that. And remember that. Okay? Another thing I wanted to sit on y'all today. Okay? Let me sit this on your lap. I'm co-reading right now, right? I'm in my spiritual practice again. So I'm reading Black Liturgies by co-author Riley. It is prayers, poems, and meditations for staying human. I love that this is a book. The author talks about in the beginning where they say they little 1-2, how he never thought he would write a religious book, a prayer book, but when thinking about Black people, when thinking about Black African spirituality, we are a spiritual people to the core. So spirit is gonna be at the core of how we show up in surrender, how we show up in worship, how we show up in memory, how we show up in celebration. Source is at the center. So I love that this was a book that invited in the different elements of spirituality that we've been conditioned with, but it also stretches us past that in terms of really making our spirituality ours, our relationship with Source ours, looking at the ways that it's been traditionally laid out as ours, like this is ours. And I love that. I was sitting and collaging. I'll show y'all. My mama sent me this picture of my brother. I also got to get the picture of Uncle Rob. Because when you see them together, it's going to make sense. This is Uncle Rob, Ashe. Uncle Rob was an anthropologist, a historian, an African spiritualist. I'm not going to cry. But Uncle Rob gave me a lot of the reverence and the respect that I have for my history and my people and my culture today. And this is a picture that Uncle Rob took of my brother Dakiri when he was young. Okay, Uncle Rob used to dress us up in these robes, beautiful jewels and beaded garments. And I mean, look at him. He's regal. He's regal. And he would I remember Uncle Rob had this diamond, y'all. He had this big diamond and he would put it on my finger And he would sit me up so regally. He would prop me up, and I would have on my jewels and my garments and my shit. I would have that shit on. And he would take my picture, and moments like that shaped me, molded me, my self-confidence, my self-trust, and who I know I am. Regardless of what anybody can ever say, regardless of what anybody could ever tell me, that's what my ancestors, my elders gave me. They can never take your mind, your intelligence, your knowledge of self, your wisdom. They can never take your mind. So in my mind and in my heart, I keep moments like this. This is my grandma up here. This is Uncle Rob's sister, big sister. And that's my Uncle Steezo. May he rest in peace. And I believe that might be my Uncle Josh. Yeah, that looked like Dakiel. So that might be my Uncle Josh. But remembering, right? This is also, these masks, this background, this is my grandma wall. Okay? I was at my grandma's house last year in Chicago, and I'm looking around, I'm like, wow, this is, I had the snapshot in my brain, but it was so hard for me to pull that out of my brain and articulate it. So I said, let me just take a picture. And I took the picture, I got on Canva, I played with it. That ochre, that orange is the same ochre that is painted on the wall. So I love that I was able to capture the moment, the living room that I grew up in. This is the same wall that I grew up staring at every single day of my life. All of my life, I know this wall. I know these masks. I've seen these masks. This is what I know. This is what I remember. This is what has shaped me. I added these little cowrie shells on here because I wanted to mimic some of the elements of the mask that you can't really see, like the cowries up there. And then I sewed this cowrie shell here on the eye to really kind of bring in, like I said, the texture of the mask. Because, baby, I wanted to put you in the room. I wanted to really put you in the room. So when I was memory mapping collagen, right? I'm on a tangent now. Collagen. I flipped open the Black Liturgy's book, and I flipped open to the chapter on memory. And I said, thank you, Spirit. Thank you, because you're so good to me. And I just kind of want to skim through a few sections that I think could really guide you in your memory mapping. And then I'm going to set it up, give you the prompt, show you the 1, 2, and then let you off on your way. So this is chapter 20. Memory in Black Literature. The first quote we have here is from our lovely James Baldwin, Ashe. To accept one's past, one's history, is not the same thing as drowning in it. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, but do you remember what I was saying about not getting lost in it? Looking at it, but knowing when to pick it up and knowing when to put it down. To accept one's past, one's history, is not the same thing as drowning in it. It is learning how to use it. An invented past can never be used. It cracks and crumbles under the pressures of life like clay in a season of drought. James Baldwin. August Wilson. I am not a historian. I happen to think the content of my mother's life, her myths, her superstitions, her prayers, the contents of her pantry, the smell of her kitchen, the song that escaped from her sometimes parched lips, her thoughtful repose and pregnant laughter are all worthy of art. August Wilson. Are all worthy of art. And see, I don't want to do too much because I made this with the intention to submit it for an exhibition that I saw that was an open call in Chicago. And I'm in here, you know, putting the work together because I was already in a self-study state of memory, right? Looking at the things that have shaped me and trying to kind of pull them to the surface. This is one of the ways that helped me pull it to the surface. This is one of the ways that helped me pull it to the surface. And so What was I saying, y'all? Like August Wilson said, I didn't want to think too much about making it something that it wasn't. I wanted to remember it as it was. But the thing with this is, I think I also kind of felt I felt a sense of invalidation and feeling like this was not a valid way to remember my people, my family, the things that have shaped me, the spaces, the rooms that have made me who I am. I felt a sense of this is not enough when it is. I didn't need anybody's permission to tell me how to remember my family, myself, my people, the rooms and living rooms that made me who I am, the art, artifacts, heirlooms that will be a part of me forever. Like, that's my grandma's house. Her house has always been like that, and that's just one room. And it was also so interesting because in archiving this, I found this essay that I wrote, like my ninth grade, in my ninth grade English class, the descendant of an African American woman. And in that, I wrote an excerpt about how my grandma used to sit us down and tell us that we were kings and queens. She would point to the things around her house and say, this is what you come from. This is who you are. Ooh, sorry, y'all. And it matters. Which is why I'm getting emotional, because nobody can tell you what's going to matter to you in the making of you, in the shaping of you. Like, nobody can give you permission. Nobody can validate that. That is yours. That is yours. This is mine. This is ours. Ooh. This is ours. And so however I choose to remember, however you choose to remember, that is yours. That is yours. And I just invite you to do it. I invite you to do it. I invite you to give yourself that. Because, you know, and I think this is just human nature, but life is prone to making us remember all the bad things, all the sad things, all the painful things, all the things that broke us down and beat us up. But like, what about the beautiful things? What about the beautiful people? What about the people that loved you, that poured into you, like poured before you even knew what you needed, before you even knew how to ask? Like, remember them. Remember you. For all the ways that you poured into yourself, for all the times you had to believe in yourself, for all the times you had to clap when there was nobody else there to clap. Remember you. Remember that. That is worth remembering. The last little part I wanted to read was a section that he included on Toni Morrison. And I love when we pull and we pull and we pull, because there's so much to pull from. Remember, Toni Morrison compared memory to the Mississippi River, which had been redirected and straightened out by humans to make room for houses and carriages, but still floods the places it once was, because it remembers. Floods is the word they use, but in fact it is not flooding, it is remembering. Remembering where it used to be. All water has perfect memory and is forever trying to get back to where it was. Writers are like that. Remembering where we were, what valley we ran through, what banks were like, the light that was there and the route back to our original place. I'm learning to follow the water, to take the time to retrace and reclaim what once was, not just for my own sense of self, though this is part of it, but because I'm not convinced we will survive without habits of remembrance. Where our individual memory wanes, collective memory must be our flood. It's been 1.5 years since my grandma passed on. A small translucent jar of chamomile powder rests on my nightstand. At night, I dust my pillow with it and pray to meet her in my dreams. in the daytime, I start to smell like her. It's how you know I'm sentimental. Because, baby, yeah, y'all. Like he said in the book, when your individual memory cannot keep up, because sometimes we cannot keep up. Sometimes we cannot keep up, and that's okay. That's okay. And then you here right now. Imagine when you get older. You talking about you can't remember right now. Imagine when you get older. We have to make it a practice. Make it a ritual of remembering who we are, where we came from, who we come from, what we came from, everything that it took for us to get here, to still be here today. We have to remember. It is a part of how we're going to survive. Thinking of the next generations that's coming after us, one thing that I feel like is where I can see the disconnect in, or what I could say the consequence of not remembering, is looking at the generation or certain generations, certain groups in the younger generations today, and seeing how disconnected they are from their elders or from their history or from just knowing the everyday things that we grew up with as Black people. I'm out of breath. Knowing the things that we grew up, the youth are missing some of that, y'all. They're missing some of the pieces. And it's being left up to the world to fill in the blanks. For our youth, our babies, the generations that are coming after us, the world is filling in the blanks because they don't have all of the information. They don't know to even remember. And so that's also I'm hot, talking, flowing, out of breath. That's also a part of why it's so important for us to remember, why it's so important for us to pull on the tools, pull on everything that we have to remember. Because when we don't even know to have that knowing to pull on, then the world gives us that knowing. And we can't get that from them. That's not something we can get from them. That's not something we want to let our youth get from them. So we have to remember so that we can teach them, so that they can know, so that they can remember, so that they can teach, so that they can know, so that they can remember, so the cycle can go on. The reason that we have knowledge of our ancestors, the reason that we have oral traditions, spirituals, myths, knowledge of who made what, who did what, is because people remembered. And they kept telling these stories. They kept passing the stories on. They kept passing it on so that other people could remember too. So when you remember, go talk to your mama. Go talk to your sister, your brother, your uncle, your auntie. Go tap on them and see what they remember so that you can know, so that you can remember. So that when they forget, you can be there to say, oh, yeah, that did happen. And then this is also, like, help them fill in the blanks. When I'm talking to my Uncle Tony, sometimes he can't remember everything. And he's a drinker, so when he drinks, he channels. And I love when I don't like the fact that substance abuse is needed for him to be able to tap into these parts of himself. But I do appreciate that he's able to tap into that part of himself. Because I think in his loneliness, which is what drives him to the substance, he's able to pull on something that's able to be a balm for the loneliness. His memory, his memories of the people he loved, of the times he shared, not just of the pain. He's not just sitting there thinking of all the other times he was lonely. He's thinking of other times he felt held. Memory. And I love that when he talks to me and shares his memories with me, I'm able to regurgitate. And so years from now, when he won't be able to remember no more, I'll now know. I'll now be able to remember the things that I was maybe too young to even be able to hold, but he filled in the blanks for me. So now I can fill in the blanks for him. I want you to do that. I want you to be able to be a container to hold your memories and the memories of your people and the memories of your families and your community, and be able to help them remember. Be able to feed back into them so that they can feed back into you, so that we can collectively hold these memories together. It just, that is when I can start thinking like, wow, I can see where we'll be in the future with that. That is healing. That is self-healing. That is us on the other side of self-betrayal. Now we're self-trusting. We're understanding that we have the tools. We have the will, the ability to remember ourselves so that we can carry our legacies forward into the future. We don't need nobody else to write our history. We don't need nobody else to teach our children our history, our stories, where we come from, who we are. We can do it. We got it. And I don't think that it's our burden, our weight to carry anymore, to say that we don't know our history, we don't know who we are, we don't know where we come from. We do. We do. We have that privilege. But what we do have, we know enough. And the thing about collective memory is the memory lives in you too, in your bones. That's sky full of elephants. Remember I was sharing that with y'all last time? The memory lives in your bones. So even when you forget, even when you don't know what you know, it's still there. And I'm going to just, I'm going to just leave that there. Memory mapping. Let me walk you through your prompt. Let me get you on up out of here, because I didn't did it for 50 minutes. Let me get you on up out of here. So also in the spirit of memory mapping, I want to let y'all know that I'll be doing a zine workshop here in Las Vegas. Zines for soft memory, soft archives for memory and care, and leaning into the memories that allow us to use them as tools in our healing. Memories that can be balms, memories that can be soothing for broken hearts, for sadness, for grief. I want us to remember the things that can hold us to, not just the things that keep us stuck. So in the spirit of that, I created this zine, and it's a full zine with one of the first pages being on memory mapping. This is going to be our prompt for today. And in the workshop, I'll just be guiding people through the same thing I walked you through today. How do we remember? The value in remembering. The way that memory can be used as a tool for liberation. Yeah, we're going to be getting into it. So today, our prompt is on noticing how memory has shaped us over time, noticing the different memories that have shaped us over time, and being able to look and pull from the ones that still live in us. Your prompt for today, memory mapping. Before you begin, take a moment to reflect on the moments in your journey that have shaped who you are today. We just reflecting first. Before you begin, take a moment to reflect on the moments in your journey that have shaped who you are today. Notice how they connect across time. Yeah, look at that pattern. Look at that pattern. That is the shaping. That is where the molding happens. And these things being a part of the journey, it was already written. Now, after you reflect, after you look at how they connect across time, I want you to list 5 moments that have shaped you. 5 moments that have shaped you. And I want you to circle the one that lives in your body most. Circle it. That is where you build from. That is where you build from. And once you circle that one that lives in your body the most, I want you to sit with that. Where does it live? How has it shaped you? How is it breathing into the person that you are today? And again, we're looking at the beautiful memories that have shaped us. The beautiful memories that have molded us and made us into the beautiful, magnificent beings that we are today. Look at the things that make you feel good. Take a moment to consciously do that. Look at the memories with the people and the places that make you feel good. Connect with your senses. What did it smell like? What did it look like? What did it sound like? What did it taste like? What could you feel? I want you to take yourself all the way back. And that's where you're going to put that memory in the middle, and then you're going to get into the sensations. Where does it live? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What do you hear? Who was there? Pull on that. And you'd be surprised how that guides you in your care practice, how that guides you in being like, you know what, I ain't heard from this person since, or I ain't been to that place since. Go back to the people and the places that made you feel good, if you can. I know sometimes we don't always have that luxury and that privilege, but if you can, give yourself that blessing, that offering. Give yourself, the past versions of yourself that got you here, give them that offering of going back to what brings y'all joy, what fulfills y'all, what brought y'all here. Give them flowers. Go lay them flowers down. And that's our practice for today. That's our practice for today. Thank you for coming back to the garden. Thank you for fucking with me. I was hesitant about cursing, you saw, but thank you for fucking with me, for real. Thank you for flowing through this work with me, flowing through your work with me. Thank you for trusting me to guide you in my journey and your journey on this journey in the garden. What better place to be than in the garden? Next time, we might be outside, for real, in the garden. But for now, metaphorically, you there with me, right? Yeah. Metaphorically. A few announcements. The new on the page blend for March will be coming next session. I'm going to actually do the same blend for March and April. So we're going to carry that one through March and April. Zines are live on the Maati's Tea Time website. Once I finish the workshop, I'll also be sharing the soft archive zines on the Maati's Tea Time website, so you'll be able to access that. And maybe give your memories a physical place to live that you can copy, because you know zines, y'all, you copy them and then you can share them. And so maybe this can be something that you use as a tool to not only help yourself remember, but help your other people, help the people remember, collective memory, y'all. Zines will be on the Maati's Tea Time website. The on the page blends will be on the Maati's Tea Time website. Ink Still Wet, the February blend, the hibiscus, butterfly pea flower, Get It Flowing blend is available still on the Maati's Tea Time website. I'll leave all the previous on the page blends still up, so they'll be available for y'all. And once I get the March, April blend up, I'll drop that promo code. Because did you know there's a promo code where you can basically get the blend for free? But you got to be here to know that. So there's a promo code. You can basically get the blend for free. That'll be dropped in the community tab here on YouTube. And I'll be sharing on the Substack soon about all of the things, especially the conversation that we had today. And I think that's everything. Yeah, I think that's everything. I'll see y'all next Sunday, 11 a.m. Thanks for coming to the garden.